Hello and welcome to WYTV7.org. I'm your host, Byron Pettit of Family Matters. Family Matters airs every Thursday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Family Matters is a podcast where we interview people who are going through real life situations in real time. My hope is every week that you tune into Family Matters, that you gain some insight and some information that will either charge you to do something different in your own life or maybe help out somebody else. Today, I'm excited to have someone I've known for, oh my goodness, 30 plus years, 40 plus years, maybe. We've known each other through Facebook. She's someone I went to high school with for a hot second, and then she went someplace else, and I stayed the course at that high school. But we follow each other on Facebook, and I've kind of watched the maturation of her being a parent and raising two children. And one of her children is a special needs child. Her name is Elisa E. All right. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay. So Elisa, as I just said, you have two children. One child's name is Roman. And I use the term special needs. Like I said, correct me if I'm not using the correct language. But what I found on February 28th, as I'm perusing on Facebook, you said it was Rare Disease Day. And you kind of mentioned about what that was like for you and how, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of folks in society may not understand what that day is and what that entails to be a parent. Talk to us about that day and why it's an important or special day for you.
Well, Rare Disease Days just raises awareness once a year towards those diseases that you don't really hear about in the mainstream. A rare disease is categorized as an orphan disease, which means it's usually my son is 1 in 50,000 that has his disorder. And when you have an orphan disease, there's no funding from the government to find cures for these diseases. So that's why it's kind of considered an orphan disease, because it's so rare, it's very hard to get funding to find a cure. So as parents, I know for myself, I used to always have fundraisers for my son just to, raise the money to go towards research. But it just raises awareness, for those diseases that aren't as common or as well known, I guess.
Okay. Appreciate that. You educating us right out the bat. So you have two boys now. I know Roman is one child's name. What's your other son's name?
Julian.
Okay. Now, is Roman the oldest or is Julian the oldest?
Roman is the oldest.
Okay.
Roman will be 23 in May. But with that said, Julian always felt he was the older brother because he had a lot of responsibility having an older disabled brother. Okay. So it's kind of funny. They even kind of switch roles themselves. Julian kind of says he's Roman's big brother a lot.
Okay. Which takes me to, so when we find out as parents, we find out we're pregnant with the child, all this sort of level of excitement comes in, it would be a new mom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So talk about when maybe you got the information from the pediatrician saying, hey, you're still going to be a mother, but, and that but maybe was you talked about the disorder or what Roman was going to be going through in this world. When you got that information, what did it do to you as far as your mental in regards to preparing you to be a new mother?
Well, I had Roman back in 1999. Back then, they didn't really offer the genetic testing. It was just for the like the mental retardation. I think that was like the main focus when you're pregnant. So my pregnancy was very healthy. My son came out incredibly healthy. It was a progressive disease. So he started to get incredibly clumsy. He was in sports, he was in karate, he was very active. About second, third grade, he just started to get really clumsy, and his teacher brought it to our attention. And I'm super clumsy, so I thought, oh, he just takes after me. And after about 2 years of being poked and prodded and blood tests and going to every pediatrician we could, they then gave us the diagnosis of Friedreich Ataxia, and it was incredibly swift, incredibly progressive. Within 3 years, he was using a walker, and then another 3 years, he was wheelchair bound. So there was really no warning. It just, that was the hand we were dealt.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, what age was he when you mentioned, you said, well, he was clumsy because I was a clumsy parent. So I thought maybe that's just what he was. But what
Right.
age was it when when you began to see a really transformation in his inability to maybe do some things um, that other kids would be able to do easy?
Well, like I said, elementary, right around when we started to get him tested, I would say about third grade. What is third grade? Gosh, you're making me go way back, Byron.
I know, and I have one. Was that seven,
Maybe,
eight?
well, maybe a little bit older than that, maybe nine or
Okay.
10. Um, so once we got the diagnosis, though, it was just, I mean, it was very quick. And even his doctor said that the form of Friedrich's that he has, it took his mobility quicker than most. But with the disorder my son has, it attacks all the muscles in the body. The heart is a muscle. So normally these kids die very young of heart attacks, usually before the age of 25. My son's Friedrich's is so different. It took his mobility quicker than most, but his heart is perfect.
Mm.
So, every kind of child has a different experience, if you will.
Mhm.
So yeah, like I said, he just immediately after the diagnosis, it just kind of went downhill from there.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
take us through it from Roman's perspective, how he was feeling. I was like, Mom, what's going on? Because each party felt something totally different. Take us for the listening audience how he was dealing with this.
Not well. I mean, even to this day, he will not let anyone give him a shot because he felt like a pincushion for 2 years. And he expressed that. I'm tired of going to the doctor. I'm tired of being poked. I feel like, I'm a pincushion. I'm tired of getting shots because we had to go through a lot of tests just to kind of narrow it down to see what it was. And when they, like the last test they took, they were saying, we think this is Friedrich's. We really hope it's not, but that's what we're leaning towards. And then that's when we got the diagnosis that that's what, in fact, what it was. So Roman, he was still so young. He wasn't quite sure what was going on. And my son, he's quite stubborn. He doesn't express himself very much,
Sure.
So I always just try to stay very positive with him. But of course, now as he's gotten older, he's able to look at things on the internet and see what his disease is and read about things. But I try to keep that from him for a while because it's pretty dire, if that
Sure.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. How did the school now? Did you have to take him out of school? Did you homeschool him? Did the school provide any sort of resources and service for him when he went back to school?
I'm gonna tell you, Byron, that's my only regret with my son. I wish I would have homeschooled him. School was incredibly traumatizing for my son. And as a mom, I didn't know, he didn't ever want to get out of bed and go to school. I mean, he would lay there like stiff as a board, like, I'm not going to school. Well, then they started to send me letters like, we're going to get you with Rebecca bill if you don't send your son to school. You know how they do now. If you don't send your kids, you can get in big trouble.
Sure.
So that really scared me because I'm like, okay, here I have a child that hates school. He cries. But then I have these people saying, we're going to jail you if you don't send your son to school. So I did end up going to like the prince. I don't even remember the process, but I did get him on a 504 and a 504 plan for kids. It just kind of states he's got no mental disabilities, just physical. But because of these disabilities, there's going to be days he can't get to school because with this disorder, he gets so tired. I mean, it just drains all his energy. So thank God I finally got that in place because then they kind of left me alone about it. But he still had to go to school. And that was a huge struggle. That was a fight every day. And if I could go back and do it over again, I would not send him to school.
Okay.
I would
Now let
have
me ask.
done it
No,
at
go ahead.
home. Yeah, I would have
Okay.
just kept him at home with me and homeschooled him at home.
Okay. Now this day and age, your kids, your kids are much older. Mine are still in elementary. So now going to school, you got to sign these anti-bullying waivers and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now for him, when he was in elementary, did he experience any bullying, or you were just saying, Byron, I would have kept Roman at home just to homeschool him for the process, not necessarily him being bullied at school? Did he experience that while he was going through school, or not really?
Not so much elementary. His father remarried when we split up, and he married my son's teacher. So he had a really good support system at school. I don't think she would have allowed it. And I used to go
Okay.
meet him for lunch a lot. I made my presence very known in elementary. I was very involved. So the kids were really, really cool to roam. But middle school was tough. I caught wind of a kid stealing his lunch. He said, Mom, this kid steals my lunch every day. Well, Mom went to school and sat out at lunch, and the principal was like, ma'am, I'll take care of it. But the kid didn't steal his lunch anymore after that. So
Right.
I think the hardest part for him was kids just avoided him. He was in a wheelchair. He was different. So kids just left him alone. So he had a very lonely existence at school.
Okay. Which also, think about what we're doing. Like I wanted you to come on to talk about rare disease today, talk about Roman, talk about kind of what you went through. But you're right. A lot of people would just say, my silence means acceptance, but really my silence means I don't know really what to say or how to interact. Like you said, his heart was working. If his mind is clear, have a conversation. How you doing? And that's the same thing, I think, for me at times as well. I have to be honest. You struggle because you don't know what to say. And sometimes you can just say, hey, Elisa, how you doing? How's your boys doing? Just have a conversation. But I think you doing this, so let me give you your flowers now to say, I appreciate you doing this and coming on, because I do believe someone's going to tune in and say, you know what? If I'm hearing anything from the mom, it's just like, treat people as human beings, just have a conversation. So I appreciate for that. Let me ask you a question, because I was going to ask you, you said dad remarried. So how did he handle this parenting with you in regards to Roman and his needs? Like, was he like, I'm out, I'm mad at you? What was that like?
It was kind of opposite. When we split, we were going through the process of getting Roman tested. Because like I said, it was about third grade, and we split on very, very good terms. But then he started to date my son's teacher. And then it was like, I think she stepped in thinking she could take over. And they tried that. They tried very hard to kind of get me out of the picture. But I'm very strong-willed, so that wasn't going to happen. I have to say, he was a good father to my kids. He was a good father. Just when it came to co-parenting, he refused. So that was difficult. Everything had to be through email. His wife insisted we only email each other. We were in court a lot because he didn't feel like me being a single woman I wasn't good enough to raise our child. So that was kind of tragic in itself. It would have been a lot easier to raise a kid that had some special needs. It would have been easier to raise them together, but it is what it is,
Yeah. Now, did he sense any of that pushback or any of the disconnect between mom and dad?
Oh, yes. Oh, that's a whole nother podcast, but dad was real good at influencing my son's mind. It's kind of sad. But now that my son is older, like he just called me a few minutes before we came on, and he needs to come over and take a shower. Mom, I need you to come, give me a shower today. So he's coming back to mom. That makes me grateful.
Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's go to commercial break. When I come back, I want to ask you some additional questions, but I also want to ask you how you made it through. What sort of some of the things or was it your faith, or did you ever question God? Like, why me? So when we come back, I want to get into more questions and give you an opportunity to also let people know what they can do as far as getting in contact with you if there's some questions they may have in raising a child with special needs as well. We'll be going to commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
80% of women will develop a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. There is relief. There is hope. The Pelvic Floor Store, your resource for personal health.
Hello, and welcome back to Family Matters. I am here with Elisa. And we are talking today in regards to her son, Roman. And Elisa, before we went to break, you told us the name of the rare disease. So again, can you just tell the listening audience the name of the disease and how it impacts the body?
Okay, so he has what's called Friedreich's Ataxia. German doctor discovered it back in the 1800s. So fast forward now, we're still at 2022. It is a very progressive disease. It's neurological, and it takes over the muscles. It took over his ability to walk very quickly. It affects the spinal cord. It thins the spinal cord. It can cause diabetes, blindness. It does attack the tongue. So his speech it's difficult to understand my son sometimes. And unfortunately, it attacks the heart. The heart's a muscle. So a lot of these kids don't have a very long life. Under the age of 25 is usually, when they start to get a heart disease.
Mm-hmm. But you would tell us offline, his heart is healthy.
His heart is healthy.
Yeah, thank God. We praise God for that. Yeah,
yes,
that's good.
yes.
Now, 1800 to 2022. So you're trying to tell me there is no funding? I mean, is there research at all? Or do you even know anymore? There
is research.
Okay.
There is research. And so for like myself, I used to have 2 fundraisers a year for my son. We would raise maybe $6,000. That's 20 minutes of research. So a lot of the funding for research is coming from just the parents having the fundraisers. Muscular Dystrophy Association, I used to work with them a lot, and they work with a lot of these small orphan diseases. And we would go for a walk, go do MDA walks, and all the money would go towards Friedreich's Ataxia.
Okay. Now, are you still doing, even though he's a young adult, are you still doing fundraising for him?
No, when he turned 18, he kind of just went off to dad's and just didn't seem too interested anymore. So that's his choice. I would love to, but it's his choice now.
Okay. Well, anyhow, for those of the listening audience, her child may not be the only one with this sort of disease. So if you want to donate, want to do fundraisers, at the end, Lisa, we'll give you a chance for people to get in contact with you. But again, just because her child is aged out doesn't mean there's not a child who could use any sort of additional funding or services in regards to this. Now, Elisa, talk to us a little bit about your faith. Like, did you ever feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going through this? As you mentioned, your ex-husband moved on to another relationship. This is a lot of stuff to bear. Talk about your faith and talk about, did you have a support system along the way that helped you through this process?
I have always had an incredible faith, always. And I know that is what saved me, because when you get a diagnosis that your child has an incurable disease and they're probably not going to live beyond the age of 25, what do you do with that? So you either take it and say, okay, God, you're going to help me with this, or you go the other direction. So my faith stayed very strong. Now, I did have days where I was mad at God and I yelled at him, cussed him out a little bit, and I'd apologize and okay, I'm human. Sorry about that, but I had a moment. I had a great support system of friends, and the Muscular Dystrophy Association actually was a huge support, just because I had my son as the ambassador. So he would go do little talks when they would do fundraising, and he would go talk to the firemen and go do fill the booth. It was a way to get him out and present. He would go to camp every year. They have a camp for these kids at Camp Seymour. Every year they have it. And each camper gets their own specific counselor. It was the best time in my son's life. So I just made sure I used the resources that were available.
Yeah. Look, shout out to Camp Seymour. I went there when I was in the 6th grade. So I know all of Camp Seymour. So if I had a good time back then, I'm sure you had a great time as well. But also talk about, I don't want Julian to get lost in the process. Talk about what it was like to parent him. Because like you said, you have one child with special needs and a child who didn't or does not have special needs. And you also talked about how Julian wanted to be the big brother, but talk about how you was parenting him, and did he ever feel left out in regards to parenting and needs?
Julian is my bright shining light. He is definitely, God put him right after Roman because he knew Roman was going to be incredibly difficult. Julian never complained. Julian was just the best kid ever. And unfortunately, as a single mom, I worked a lot. And I didn't get support from their dad. So I worked a lot. And unfortunately, I'd have to ask my son, younger one, can you hang out with Roman for a few hours? I just have to go to work for a few hours. That was so hard for me because that's not his job. He's supposed to be the little brother. But sometimes we don't have choices. So Julian never expressed any, what's the word for it? He never complained about it. He never seemed upset about it. He never said, Mom, I don't want to watch my brother. Just now, he's 19, and now he expresses sometimes he feels like he was forgotten, but he knows he wasn't. I think you do the best with the situations that you're dealt. So Julian, I went out to lunch with them just a few weeks ago, and it was just so beautiful to see. Roman can't just lean up and take his coat like the rest of us can. He's got to like really move his hand and focus. And you'd see Julian just lean over and grab it very discreetly and help his brother. And I mean, he just did things very discreetly to help him. So Roman kind of still felt capable, if you will. But it was just so beautiful to see my son, my little one, just take that natural caregiving role towards his brother.
Mhm.
And
And I think the thing about you that I want to give you credit for is a lot of times, like you said, I got to do what I got to do to make things work, to also to bring in money. So for Julian to be able to say, Mom, basically in his own words, I got this. I'll watch my little brother, speaks to what you have done. And again, I don't know dad, so I don't never ever want to discount the other party, but also give credit where credit is due for both parties. I tell people, if you have great kids, and I fundamentally believe this, you have great kids, it's because you both poured in them your own special way. I don't get into me. I don't get into you had them 90%, dad had them 10, or dad had them 98. They're great boys because you both poured into that. So just always, you don't need for me to say it, but just always remember that. They're great boys because what you did when you had them as well. If they're great boys now, maybe look, Roman's eating habits ain't the greatest. Doesn't mean he's not a great kid at dad's house. You go, look, we're gonna work on that piece. But yeah, that's good. And it's good. Like, I did feel maybe left out or I missed additional things maybe growing up, but he understood the importance of being there for his brother. So kudos for you for doing that. Now, where does Julian live? Does he live on his own?
Nope, he lives down the street with his dad as well. They live literally less than a mile from me. So their dad has a ginormous house. They each have their own floor. So they have it made over there.
Okay.
The only thing that worries me is like my house is very handicap equipped.
Yes.
I had actually Rebuilding Tacoma come over, and they built a wheelchair ramp in my backyard. They redid my whole bathroom for handicap accessibility. So like I said, like you're not going to be shown the resources. You really got to dig and find the things that are available. There are really a lot of things available for people that don't have the money to take care of things like that. So I just feel so blessed I was able, to get people over here to help me, make my house livable for my son. And his dad's, he's got this beautiful home, but there's no wheelchair ramp for him to get out of. So that kind of worries me a little bit. But other than that, they both live down with their dad. They're doing good. I see them, often, not as often as I'd like, but.
Right. Well, what's as I got this perplexed look on my face, if your house is handicapped and wheelchair accessible, so they're having to work a little bit harder over at dad's house. So maybe a bigger house, but and as a caregiver, so he may have to lift Roman up. He may have to. Okay, so there's a lot more work going over there at dad's house. Now I don't know if you communicate with dad. Is there a reason he may not want to make his house wheelchair accessible, or you're like, I don't know, Byron?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I ask my older son all the time, like, because literally he doesn't leave the house much. He sits in his room and plays video games all day. And it's sad as a mama to watch him not have a good quality of life. You know, he gets lonely. He wants a girlfriend. He's a handsome kid,
Hmm.
but I don't think there's a lot of encouragement.
Hmm.
You know, dad works a lot, stepmom works a lot. I think they just leave him to his own devices, which is fine. That's their choice.
Hmm.
Mom's very different. I'm kind of
Yeah,
more hands-on, you know,
right.
like
And I think that, yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
when he comes to visit, I make him go outside with me and we walk around the block with the wheelchair, you know, and he hates me every step of the way, but I know how important sunshine is. I know the vitamins it gives us. So
Mhm.
mom gets kind of pushy, but oh well.
Yeah, but you know what? Again, I'm thinking the parenting styles. I think about what you did, all the ways you parent him, and all of a sudden, again, dad says, all right, I'm using terms, I got it from here. But I guess
Yeah.
the question becomes is like, what do you have if I've been doing it a certain way and it's been working? So a part of what you're saying, hey, I'm used to getting him out. There's a swimming pool. But if he's not doing any of that stuff over there, it makes you think like all this work I've done, what was it for?
I've never really thought that before, actually. I
Yeah.
really haven't.
Hmm.
Um, I just kind of, and you know, I have to be honest, Byron, I like that they're at their dad's because it was
Yeah.
a lot of work for a really long time.
Hmm.
Like I would sleep 3 or 4 hours a day tops. I sleep more now than I've ever slept in my life. So
Right.
I do enjoy the break, I have to say, because it was nonstop. Go, 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 go.
Right.
And so them being with their dad is just fine with me, but I wish my son would come more. I'm also a healer. I work with energy healing people. It would be so detrimental to my son to be over here. And I just pray about it.
Hmm.
I don't get mad about it. I just say, God, you'll take care of it for me. Whenever I hand it to God, it always works out.
Sure. Sure.
Always.
Yeah.
So I try not to reflect too much on the past. I mean, it's hard not to sometimes, but
Hmm.
just try to move forward from here. Try
Yeah.
to pray for him to get over here a little bit more.
Right. Right. But you
Yeah.
don't get resistance from the other party allowing Roman or Julian to come over. You don't get resistance from dad saying they can't. It's just them getting out and getting over here.
Um, it's just, well, I mean, I wish I could go see Roman more, but his dad doesn't like me at the house. Like I wanted to come see him on his birthday last year, and his dad was like, no, you're not coming over for his birthday. So
Hmm.
it's, you know, it'd be easy for me to go visit if it was allowed.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hopefully he'll get better since our kids are getting older, I hope.
Okay. Okay. Now, I know you said Roman spends a lot of time in the house. Does Julian work? Does he maintain employment? Okay. So he's more or less
Julian
self-sufficient, doing his own
Julian's
thing.
been working since he was 14, started working for my brother doing construction. Now he's at Costco. He's awesome.
Okay. Good.
Yes,
Good.
he's
Good.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, now a part of our show, Family Matters, is to educate, empower, and encourage. You've done you're still on the journey, but you're beyond the beginning. You're almost toward the end, meaning your son he's older now. He's a young
Yeah,
man. But
yeah.
what can you encourage any listening the listening audience, a parent, anybody who might be going through something similar in regard to needing resources or support? What can you encourage folks who are going through this journey right now?
Like I said, don't wait for things to come to you. It's like, honestly, you have to be an advocate for your child. You have to be the one doing the research. You know, when I went to get him on Social Security disability, they denied us twice, even though he has an incurable disease. You don't ever give up. I didn't give up. Nope, my son deserves this money. He's not ever going to be able to work. I just encourage people, just be your child's advocate. You are the only one that can speak for them. Take the resources that are available. You know, it was my uncle that told me about Rebuilding Together. Why don't you apply, Elisa? Apply for help if you need help. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. I used to never ask for help. And then when I started, I was like, wow, life can be so much easier than I ever thought. So, you know, sometimes we have to humble ourselves and just take the help that's available because it's not an easy job. But
Right.
I feel special that God trusted me enough to take care of such a special child, and he gave him to me to take care of. So I took it more like that rather than being upset with the disability.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yo, totally, totally. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, again, anybody listening in, again, who is or on this journey, about to go through this journey, I think those words of encouragement you give were really helpful. Now, let me ask you this. How do people get a hold of you? So is your time, or you want to give an email address, a phone number? Because somebody may contact you and say, thank you for that, or I'm going through. How can a listening audience get a hold of you? And what's the best way? Whatever information you want to get out, they can contact you.
Oh gosh. I mean, email, I would be happy to, if I could just help one person with this podcast today, my mission is complete. That's how I feel, because I wish I would have had somebody to kind of say, hey, this is how you navigate through it, because it's not going to be easy. So email, do you want me to give my email?
Yeah, yes, it's yours. Whatever
Okay.
email you want to give out.
So my email is Truthers1, TRUTHERS1 @hotmail.com. Elisa Escada, you can email me. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
And one other thing, when it comes to your child, always, this, I tell everybody this all the time anyways, always use your gut. When it comes to your child, you know what's best. And I always had so many people in my ear telling me what to do and how to raise them and this and that. And it's like, if you just listen to yourself, that's the most important thing. Quiet the outside noise and really listen to your own heart and what to do with your kid.
Amen. Yeah, I agree with you there. You get a lot of outside noise coming in at the end of the day when the lights go out and you're in bed and you're the one that said, did I make the right decision? Not based on what somebody told me. And like you said, your faith, you have faith that's insurmountable. So I thank you for coming on. I thank you for sharing Roman with us through Facebook, through the podcast, and Julian as well. And just keep being great. I mean, again, like I said earlier, they're great boys because you have poured into them the amount of time that you have them in a special way. So they'll continue to be. Thank you, everybody, for tuning. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for tuning in to Family Matters. If you guys want to get a hold of me, you can contact me at 704-288-4612, or you can contact me on my webpage. It's www.practicalfamilyresolutions.com, or you can email me at practicalfamilyresolutions@gmail.com. Again, thank you for the listening audience. Again, as I said, I hope that something you heard today has caused you to move, not only in your own life, but maybe in the life of somebody else. And if you like this podcast, go back to WITV7 and hit the donate button. We appreciate anything that you can give. We wish you the best. Have a great day.